redemption tale where your blood was spilled from my ransom. Everything I wanted, dear, I counted all as loss. Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Just bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me
his words be yours, God, and not his, and that we open our hearts to them. God, I love you, and it's in your son's holy name I pray. Amen.
Good morning. First things first. I have a deal with the people that I work with that whenever I'm showing their pictures to people over here, that I have to show them pictures of who's looking at their pictures. So if you all will, come on, here we go. Oh, thank you. Yeah, there we go. Give them a big wave, and this will be going to our folks in Israel. Sometimes I do it right from here, but I'm not feeling that confident today. So thank you very much. They kind of get a kick out of that. My name is John Samples with the Christian Holy Land Foundation. We've been doing ministry in Israel since the early 1980s. We've been focused on the Galilee since 2006. And we work, as Walt said, with Israeli couples, Israeli pastors, 6 of them specifically. And we did not send them, we found them. Or they found us, or God put us together, however you want to look at that. It's been an honor for me to serve these folks if you're familiar with Israel, from the north, from the top of the West Bank all the way to Lebanon, from the Mediterranean Sea over to Jordan, Syria, wherever you want to look at the border. The logo, just very briefly, I don't know how clearly you can see it, so I'll just walk you through. Can anybody see the I usually say, can anybody tell me what that says? And somebody inevitably says Christian Holy Land Foundation, so I'll skip that part. So the first line is what language? Arabic. Anybody speak Arabic? Good, so I can tell you it says whatever I want it to say. It says, walking with believers. Second line is what language? Hebrew. There's got to be somebody here that can read Hebrew. Somebody said where Jesus walked. That's actually a very good literal translation. So walking with believers where Jesus walked. Now, it's really interesting because the first time I wore this without the English on a T-shirt walking through the Tel Aviv airport, and this rather cocky Jewish teenager kid comes up right in my face and says, well, if you don't know, why are you asking us? And I said, what are you talking about? And he says, your shirt, it says, where did Jesus go? So I'm thinking there's 500 shirts in the trash. But apparently, and we didn't do this on purpose, if you can only read the Hebrew, it says, where did Jesus go? Yeah, you got to add a question mark, but that's how it reads in Hebrew. But if you can read Arabic and Hebrew, which all of the people that we work with do, then the first line is, what are we doing? The second line is, where are we doing it? And it flows grammatically. I wish I could, I can't explain, I can't diagram an English sentence, so I'm not about to try and explain exactly how that works. But I've had it confirmed by several linguists. So the reason we do this, the reason we have Arabic and Hebrew on our logo is specifically to say, as Christians, we are working in a land that is full of division, but we're not taking sides. We're there for the gospel. We're not there because they're Arabs or they're not Hebrews, or we're not there because they're Hebrews and not Arabs, whatever. We don't care. It's for the gospel. And as Christians, we should not take sides against our brothers and sisters. And there are people who support the Christian Arabs who are anti-Israel. And there are people who support the Jewish Christians who are anti-Arab. If you fall into either one of those categories, I'm going to ask you and challenge you to challenge your heart to keep it focused on the right thing and try and keep politics out of this whole crazy land where we do our stuff over there. Commercial. We are not a travel agency, but we do travel. We are a ministry. That's what we do. I swore I would never take tours, and then I found out that about 70% of the people who support us, or about 70% of the money we get, comes from people who have traveled. So suddenly I got a lot more interested in traveling. This is for pastors. So most of you guys, this is, if some of you guys have preachers back home that you think would like to go see the Holy Land, this is a preachers only tour. It's about half price. Professors, here you go. Come see me if you want to go to Israel in January on an 11-day tour, 3 days of it in Jordan. So, okay, commercial done, commercial out of the way. I have some people that I want you to meet today. People that are part of the community of believers. This is the team that we work with. Among these people are Bible college graduates, as you might expect. There's a marine biologist, there's a civil engineer, there's a barber, there's a special education teacher, a high school principal, a blacksmith. I've never said this before, but since I'm not pointing to any of them, there's also a former professional belly dancer up there. And then she found Jesus. Not to say you can't be both, but in the context of that culture, that was something she had to give up when she became a Christian and then a pastor's wife. So there's all kinds of folks represented in these 6 couples that we work with, and they make up their own community. They are an accountability group for each other, as well as for the 20-some churches that they're now working with, as well as women's programs and young people's programs. Speaking of young people, this last trip, I had a young man ask me a difficult question. As you can imagine, in the Middle East, everybody's worried about ISIS at one point or another. And they've not had a presence in Israel that anyone has acknowledged. But he comes up to me and says, "Can you love ISIS and still be a Christian?" This is the preacher's son. I'm wondering what in the world's going on. And I said, I think the values are contradictory and in conflict with each other. No, I don't think you can. And he says, well, I think you can. Work with me here, guys. Come on, this is ISIS. Okay. All right. Now, see, I was real nervous about being up here in front of a group of young people that are just really sharp and, going to challenge everything. So you've just made me feel a whole lot better. That's good. In our Western culture, this word community has become kind of faddish. In the church, it's become kind of faddish. Does not mean it's not an important word. Does not mean that community is not important. And that's what I want to talk about this morning, and I want to share with you some of the stories about the community that we're working in. If you start at the beginning of your Bible, you don't have to go very far to find the first time that God talks about community. In Genesis 35:11, God is talking to Jacob about the promises that he made to Abraham and Isaac, and that he is now also making to Jacob. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. And God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants." A nation and a community of nations. Not one nation. One nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. People within nations are usually very different from each other, yet they have common interests that bind them together. Security, the economy, education, healthcare, politics, so on. So here in this verse, God is talking about a bunch of different people within each different nation being part of a community of nations. Different groups of different individuals with different interests, all being part of the same community, which God was at least predicting, if not ordaining. God told Jacob, "This is part of a good promise that I am making to you." Context about your community. I know there are people here that are, y'all are studying for ministry in some form, whether it's missionary, your local church, lay minister, whatever. It's important to understand the context, so let's look at the context of where we have been for the last several years. There's the Holy Land, and then there's Israel. Not the same thing. The Holy Land that we are referring to, and this isn't even accurate, but relative to the boundaries as they are drawn today, this is a picture of the Holy Land. Does that have a... It doesn't. Never mind. Oh, maybe. There we go. Oh, yeah, my hands aren't shaking. So that's a picture of the Holy Land. And then we'll get to Israel in a moment. Holy Land is only about 12,000 square miles. Anybody know how many square miles in Missouri? 70,000. 12,000 in the Holy Land, in all of that land. Population about 12.5 million. Missouri, 6.1 million. In Israel, I'm sure some of you have trouble saying that, in the Holy Land, less than 52% of the population is Jewish. 42% of the population is Muslim. 2% or less is Christian. 4% is Druze and various other things. Druze is a form of Islam, sort of like Mormonism is a form of Christianity. They have their own book, their own prophet, but they are basically, in other words, Muslims don't necessarily recognize the Druze, but the Druze recognize the Muslims, so we get into that. So anyway, that's the Holy Land. So it changes dramatically when we talk about Israel. Did you see those pieces that just disappeared? The West Bank is now gone, a strip over on the left side on the point, the Gaza Strip is gone, and the Golan Heights is gone. So the numbers changed fairly dramatically at this point. Now Israel is just 8,000 square miles, 8.2 million, and the percentages go up dramatically, 75% Jewish, 18% Muslim, but still 2% Christian or less, 4% Druze or less. And so Israel, by the way, is not a third world country. People tend to think camels and deserts and stuff like that for everybody over there, and there aren't very many of those types of areas left. Israel is very modern, and so doing ministry there it's expensive because cost of living there is just crazy. And it's, you don't normally think of mission fields as being first world countries. So the Arab Christian population has its own set of challenges. We already said it's 2% of the population. 52% are unemployed. 52% of Arab Christians in Israel are unemployed. A fairly natural event for a minority within a minority. They don't get the good jobs very often. They don't get the good houses. And so it's a serious economic situation for them. About 45% are Catholic, 40% are Orthodox, and somewhere around 5% evangelical. Christians are increasing in Israel as a number, but they're decreasing as a percentage of the population. Let's get back to the good promise. Here we go. I'm as bad as anybody as wanting to be liked and wanting to be around people like me. But God seems to be saying in this passage that being in community with people that are different is actually part of his plan. And if you look at the way Jesus ministered to people, it can be very easy to believe that he went out of his way to be with people that were different. As far as we know, there was not another carpenter among the 12 disciples. He hung out with fishermen and tax collectors and political radicals. He performed miracles for royalty as well as for the poor. You remember where Jesus performed the first miracle, and no extra points for this? Wedding at Cana, of course, and I bring that up because we work with a church at Cana, and it gives me an excuse to talk about them. Wonderful church. We'll talk about them later. But it's the next several miracles after that wedding at Cana that I find particularly interesting. The first thing he did was he healed the son of a royal official that probably was someone in King Herod's service, likely not even a Jew. And most certainly, even if they were a Jew, it was someone that was not popular with Jesus's people. Then Jesus healed the servant of a Roman centurion, a Gentile. He healed lepers, and no one hung out with lepers. He sat and talked with a Samaritan woman, and his disciples didn't even know what to think or do about that. And the hero of one of his most famous stories was so very different, the Good Samaritan. And we're going to take a pause now, because there's someone that I want you to meet that's standing by live from Israel if everything works well. And this guy's very different. Can you hear me, Cody? There he is. Cody Isaacson. What? Y'all waving? Yeah, he can't see you. Just saying. Okay, that's all right. Good, Cody. Cody kind of knows this place. Cody, tell him where you've been.
Right now?
No, about 5 or 6 years ago.
I graduated with a youth and family degree from Central in 2012.
Yeah, give him a hand. Cody and his wife Sharia are part of a really interesting internship program that we're trying for the first time this year. You're in the apartment, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. He is at the apartment in a little village of Elibun, he and Sharia both, and they came over for an 8-month internship without any instructions, and we brought them into our little community over there without any responsibilities, and now God's sort of shaking us both up and seeing where all that fits in, and it's very intentional. This is not accidental. So you agree with that description, Cody?
Yeah, I would agree with that description. We are allowed to have the chance to see what Jesus wants us to be over here, getting to follow that.
Okay, and you've been there for almost a month now?
Yeah, almost a month.
This idea of community, do you have a sense of that there?
I think that every day we learn more and more about what community looks like over here. In America, my community understanding tended to be once, twice a week, getting together with some people for a set amount of time, maybe at a coffee shop. Here, it's getting together with families 4 or 5 nights a week, even the same family, because they just want to spend time with you, and talking for 4 or 5 hours. Lots of good food. It's giving us a different sense of what community looks like.
What's the most surprising thing you've come across in the first month?
I think...
I'll tell you what surprised me the most is that there's a barber over there that knows how to cut his hair, but that's another problem.
Yeah, he does a good job. I was very excited to meet him. I think what's surprising is as you learn what people, kind of the traditions and rituals of everybody here, and as you learn that people want you to stay longer, when to leave, when to come over. And in this culture, they're a little more upfront as far as you just invite yourself over. And that's been really surprising and different for us because we're not used to just inviting ourselves over to places as much.
Are they generally on time for meetings?
Well,
that's a trick question.
Not quite. We've usually been setting meetings for like a 30-minute start time, and then it still starts after that.
They kid themselves about it, but it is well known in the Arab community that if church starts at 6, you hope everybody is in their seats by 7, and that the pastor is there by at least 6:30. And I'm not kidding. And their explanation is, I'm going to call it an excuse here more than an explanation, but they say if they are sitting talking with someone, why would they leave that relationship that is certain to go to a meeting and another relationship that hasn't started yet? That sounds sweet unless you're trying to catch a plane at the airport, and that doesn't work out so good. So they do have the ability to be on time, but in their villages and in their communities, they do not. What roles are you and Sharia settling into, if you've identified those yet, Cody?
Yeah, one of the roles that we're settling into is helping out with the youth ministry here, being volunteers in the Elaboon church, especially as we kind of help them develop strategy. They are trying to revamp their youth group, and we get to walk alongside of them and just hear what they're wanting to do with that and be a part of it, as well as helping out in a house church in Derhana, which is nearby. And Sharia has been going to the women's ministry meetings and settling into those. But one of the roles that we've settled into is getting a chance to introduce people to the evangelical church over here. As we've had coffee and dinners with different families that are not from the church, the evangelical church isn't well understood over here, outside of Catholic and Greek Orthodox churches.
Back up a minute. What you just said indicates, and you said it again, I'm just processing it here. In what setting are you encountering people that are not already part of the church to be able to expose them this way?
One of the easiest ways was talking with our neighbor. We've spent quite a bit of time talking with our neighbor, Bashir and Elias, who introduced us to their family, who we've then gone over and had dinner with some of the extended family. As we've been out at markets, people have invited us over for meals or coffee, and we just say yes.
Have you learned that they don't invite you to dinner unless they're serious?
Everybody that has invited us to do something has been serious.
Yeah, you don't, it's not a courtesy thing. So these people that you're accepting these invitations from, are they from the Catholic community or the Orthodox or non-churched? Where are they from?
So far, it's been the Catholic community that we've been involved with the most.
And what you said that the evangelical church is not well received there, or not, the reputation isn't right. What do you mean by that?
It's a new concept for them, because the Catholic and Greek Orthodox are, if I understand this right, recognized by the government, where the evangelical church is not. And so the evangelical church, without having the traditions of the Catholic and Greek Orthodox churches, because they're stepping out on a limb in their eyes, something new for the community, it's taking a while for it to adjust to this movement.
And it's been moving in this village for 20 years? Did we lose you?
Yeah. No, I'm still here.
Okay. That's good. When he doesn't want to answer, he just acts like the signal goes down. We practiced that before. I really didn't see that one coming. That's a good surprise for me, because and you're getting that invitation because you're American, or because you run into them every time you walk out the door? What's the deal?
Well, we try our best to make an effort to make sure to say hi to people as much as we can. But yes, because we're American, it's interesting, because I've been to multiple countries, and this village of Elaboon is very receiving of Americans, and they want to hear about our faith and why it is we believe what we believe. And some are more willing to hear from us than they are the other local people from the village.
So you're giving them some credibility by living in the town as an evangelical.
Very much so.
Yeah, see, as someone who wants these ministries to be not Western, we really don't want them to be a United States church in Israel.
Yes.
but yet you have these opportunities that you have to be sensitive to and take advantage of in that role. That's interesting. Sorry, we're just having a little conversation here. Cody, anything that you want to leave these folks with that has just sort of been profound for you?
I think that what has stuck out a lot to me and Sharia is their complete reliance on prayer. I think that that's something that we are learning very deeply here, is that no matter what comes up in their life, they are constantly praying about it. They are seeking the Lord, and it's really challenged us in our own Christian walk to be able to do that. But also, we have had the chance to learn the culture, and I would encourage you guys that if you are thinking about going overseas, and I have a youth ministry major, so even if you are in general Christian ministry, a pastor's degree, youth ministry, it doesn't have to be a missions one, but take time whenever you walk into a culture to ask questions and learn the culture. Don't assume you know the culture. That's been something that we walked in here trying not to assume anything, and it's been noticed, and it's been a positive thing.
Very good. Thank you, Cody. Cody, Sharia is not there because she's holding his seat at a neighborhood barbecue that's taking place about a block from his house. And I'm kind of holding him here as long as possible just to get back that I'm not there. Because when they do barbecues, they do barbecues upright. So I'm sure this is the first one.
Kanafi.
They're going to have kanafi?
No.
Oh, dang. That's a whole nother problem. Kanafi it's the dessert that God invented and the only one that He allows you to eat in heaven. So we'll teach you more about that later. Cody, thank you very much. Give our love to Sharia and the Hanas and everyone else over there.
Will do. Thank you.
There's a couple more people that I want to introduce you to, and then tomorrow we'll talk a little more generally, a little more specifically about the subject. Can we get the video up there, Christian? Don't play it yet. I guess I'll play it, won't I? Let's see what we've got here. We've already talked to them. That was their first bus ride on the way to the Jordan River. So that was, all right, this fellow right here, Abu William Shafani, his first name is Radi, is an Arab farmer. And by farmer, it's olive trees and fruit trees and flowering trees. He speaks about as much English as I do Arabic, which is not much. But we've connected at some level where we get together and we can have full conversations. We go for walks through his olive orchards, and we probably have a 10-minute conversation. It takes us 2 hours to do it. But it's just an amazing connection. And so after dinner one night, he gives me that look that he's got something to tell me that we need to go outside. I asked Salim to come along because this looked like something I really needed to understand. And I actually stopped him after the first sentence and said, "Can I turn the video camera on, because I think this is something that I want to share back home." So this is Abu William Shafani, who lives just maybe 300 meters from where Cody was just talking to us from. He has started 2 churches in his basement that have gone on into be regular churches. And he's just a simple man. I just love him dearly. And he has a message for you. I sure hope he has a message for you.
I approach my friend and the person who I love very much, John. A message of 2 points that I want to convey to you. And I convey these 2 messages to the church in the West. A church in the West, do not set yourself down. And to the church of the East, don't become a stranger. Don't estrange yourself. And I ask you, John, that you not only hear what I'm saying, but that you would convey this message to the church in the West, so that the church will hear A word from a man living here in the East in Israel. Because the church in the West has power. God gave her power. Whether it is in the social area or the political area, but also the spiritual area. It is a liberated church. And I'm asking you, John, that you would convey this message to the church in the West. Thank you.
Anybody hear him ask for money? He needs money. They are well within the poverty range. He says, don't forget about us. And there's something about what's going on. I mean, there's peoples all over the world that don't want to be forgotten. In my heart, these folks stand out because they live in a land where our faith started. And they're trying to keep the faith alive. And they feel like they've been abandoned by the Western church because of confusing messages and narratives that are generated out of the politics of Israel. And that, there's no statement in that. I'm not saying the politics of Israel are good or bad or nothing. But your Christians, brothers and sisters in Israel are being left out of the conversation in the Western churches. So, I'll just leave this the way Abba Williams said, don't forget about them. Pray with me. Father, I thank you for this time, for being with these young people, this generation to come, this generation that is going to fill your kingdom with excitement, enthusiasm, your story, the gospel, and reflect Christ wherever they go. Thank you for the professors and the leaders here at the school that are leading these folks, and I just lift them all up to you, Father, for your blessings, your protection, and I give you thanks for them. In the name of your Son, amen.
It's fascinating to me. It's really exciting to me that Jesus is moving in the land of Israel through the minorities and where he's been rejected for so many years. In the land that he walked, we're able to see Jesus move through these churches. And I'm really excited about that. And there's some really unique opportunities for you to be a part of that in a place like Israel and other places around the world too. And that's what we're doing here at Missions Emphasis Week. I do want to let you know something I forgot to mention earlier is what's going to be happening tomorrow. Tomorrow is a big day for Missions Emphasis Week, as in that we have a lot going on. We will be announcing our trip leaders officially to you, and that'll give you an opportunity to go different places around the world and even here in the United States to serve during Outreach Week. We will have several more guests on campus who will be setting up displays out on the foyer. These are missionaries, these are missionary organizations for you to go and talk to and just find out other ways in which you could support them and serve around the world as well. We will be taking up another offering to continue to support the work that you've heard about from this stage this week as well. An opportunity for ICOM will be presented to you to sign up for that at a table tomorrow as well. That is in Peoria. We've been able to get the cost down for you to go to ICOM this year too, and that'll be talked about more tomorrow as well. So come prepared again tomorrow. If you're interested more in what John's work is and what they're doing in Israel, you're welcome to come to my 215 class in room 222, Worldviews and Ethics, where he'll be discussing that there as well. Allow me to pray for you one more time. And then please pick up your chairs as you're dismissed. God, thank you for your great love. God, thank you for your grace. And thank you how you're working through this institution and how you're working all around the world in just the most amazing ways. God, I pray that you use us. I pray that you use us in our lives with the blessings that you've given us, the passions, the abilities, and the opportunities, God, just to expand your kingdom, to bring you more glory and honor and praise. Thank you, God, for this opportunity that we have here today. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.